One of the nice things about having a best friend that has a real job and isn't a self-proclaimed automotive influencer like myself is that they can afford to buy brand new cars as opposed to 20-year-old Corvettes. But the other good thing about that is you get to help them pick the car they should buy. And as it turns out, I'm not as much of an idiot as I thought, because this is the car I suggested they buy, and he actually did it. This is the 2020 Mazda 3 Hatchback, and it's a spicy premium hatch with all-wheel drive. Ha! Bet you weren't expecting me to say that now, were you? Now, we just can't talk about the new Mazda 3 Hatchback without first looking at the body of it, because frankly, it's very hard not to let your eyes draw around it when you first see one. You'll notice there's no hard body lines, there's no creases. Mazda brought out design cues from their Vision Coupe concept car released in 2018, which actually went on to win the Concept Car of the Year award. And they obviously did something right with this design, because it just won the 2020 Car Design of the Year award. Up front, a massive black grille that's standard on all models greets you. It looks very sporty while remaining very classy. And in my opinion, it's got the most aggressive front end of any car in this segment. And it's only killed by having a stupid front license plate on it. Stupid New Hampshire. One of my favorite items on many things, the rear end, isn't too shabby either. You do have a C-pillar that's as big as my nose, but that doesn't detract from the sexiness now, does it? The dual LED taillights, sloping rear windshield, and the very subtle gloss black spoiler add to the sportiness. And because of the hand-designed body, the reflections from the paint are very interesting, unlike any other car I've seen. Speaking of paint, there's a very interesting story to the soul red crystal paint that envelops this Mazda 3, and that color doesn't come easy. You see, Mazda has a long history with the color red, and red has deep roots in Japanese culture. It's on their nation's flag, and it depicts strength and passion. Now, to achieve such a deep, hand-painted simulated job like this, Mazda had to teach its robots to behave like artisan craftsmen. Its very deep and rich color is born by coating a layer of semi-transparent paint over the reflective layer of aluminum flakes. Then a clear coat is coated over the paint to emphasize translucence. And it's gonna cost you an extra $600 to get it, but it's well worth it in my opinion. Just look at the depth of this color, it's absolutely fantastic. Now, if you don't go with red, that's okay, you just have issues. There's an array of other very sharp colors available. I especially like the deep crystal blue mica when paired with a red interior, and the polymetal gray metallic, but that color's only available with the premium package. And I'm poor. And under that gorgeous soul red crystal paint is this, the 2.5 liter Skyactiv G 4-cylinder engine. It's got dual overhead cams and is aluminum, and it makes 186 horsepower and 186 foot-pounds of torque. And it even has cylinder deactivation. Now you're probably saying, cylinder deactivation in a 4-cylinder? Yes, and yes again. So when you're at cruising speeds, this engine will actually switch and only run on 2 cylinders. The Mazda engineers found a problem with this though, as a 2-cylinder engine creates much more vibration than an engine running on 4 cylinders does. To fix this, engineers at Mazda put a fulcrum inside the transmission to provide a seamless transition from 4 cylinders down to 2, and back again. And speaking of transmissions, you do actually have a manual variant available. Yeah, a 6-speed manual transmission is optional, but only with the front-wheel drive and premium package. Boo! Why, Mazda? Why do you gotta do us like that? But hopefully they will come to their senses soon. Maybe make the manual transmission available with all-wheel drive or in a different package. Maybe bring back the Speed 3? Huh? Mazda, what do you think? I know you're listening. Anyhow, this preferred package 3 hatch is equipped with a 6-speed automatic transmission, which brings us into the amazing, very high-class interior. You've first got this nice, very flat, very vertical dashboard that accentuates the width of the car and keeps you from feeling too claustrophobic in here. These beautiful leather-wrapped seats welcome both your butt and your back with a cushy bottom and satisfying side bolstering. And for those cold butts out there, they're even heated in the preferred package. This leather-wrapped steering wheel feels amazing to hold, and it's the perfect size and girth for this interior. The whole interior feels incredibly premium, and it's very simplistic in its design. They really knocked it out of the park with this one. Everything looks good and it feels good. The fit and finish in here is excellent. You can also get your Mazda 3 with a white interior or a red one, which, let me tell you, the red one looks fantastic. But I just couldn't talk my buddy Kevin into doing red on red. I guess that's just not his style. Loser! And when you get a different colored interior, it really looks amazing. But I'm in no way complaining about the black. And there's nothing in this segment that can match this interior. Now, as for tech in here, first things first, we've got the all-new Mazda Commander control for the infotainment system and this 8.8-inch central screen. Don't worry, I measured it myself, which is now angled towards the driver, which is a nice touch. Now, in my opinion, this is a big step up from the last generation Commander control. I thought the graphics looked just kind of cheesy and the colors were kind of odd. This one is so much more sophisticated. It's such a higher class of infotainment system. It honestly looks like it belongs in a BMW. Everything is so neat, so clean. It almost looks higher class than the BMW's does. The font is crisp, it's clean, and the screen has such a high resolution to it, it really is awesome to use. I like this infotainment system. I think it's in a great spot on the dashboard, and Mazda is very serious about distracted driving. They don't want you taking your eyes off the road, so they put it in the absolute premier spot that it should be in so that you can drive safely and use your infotainment system. You do get Apple CarPlay as well as Android Auto in here, which is a fantastic feature to have. And honestly, I don't know why I even said that, because most cars coming out in 2020 are equipped with it. It's just a very, very nice software. It's very easy to use. Now, that infotainment system plays its sound through this 12-speaker Bose premium sound system, which sounds absolutely phenomenal. And it looks really fancy as well. One of my favorite interior touches is the aluminum grills over the Bose speakers. An awesome touch, very high class, and the sound quality is unmatched for this car. But it is only available on the preferred packages and up. Now, as per usual, the climate control, there's nothing really special about it. All the knobs and buttons feel great. It's very simple to use. And one thing about the climate control in particular that I like about this car, well, mainly the vents, is two of the vents around the steering wheel. It looks very shapely. It looks like good design. They really integrated it well into the dashboard. And one other benefit of this, if you're from a colder climate, like I said before, when you have your hands on the wheel, these things blow the perfect amount of warm air to keep your hands warm. Now, as for the gauges, I especially like them in this new Mazda. There's nothing really that makes them stick out or look extra sporty. They just continued the class right into the gauges. But what I find very cool is the central gauge, the speedometer. It's actually digital, but it doesn't appear so at all. They made it such a high resolution and so clear that it just blends in. So you can scroll through and view all the different metrics of your car. Stuff like range, fuel efficiency, etc. Try to get in the back seat. Oh dear. All right, so me sitting behind myself is only slightly, extremely uncomfortable. Looks like I would have to lose this leg if I did want to shut the door. And that's not me being generous with the leg room. That was the actual seating position that I would be in. Now, the only good thing about this is my best friend is about a foot shorter than me. As I've said before, I am 6'5". As for headroom, well, I'm all legs, so that's what's taking up the most space. So I actually have headroom, not a ton of it, and I don't know if I'd want to sit back here for very long rides. Now, of course, this being a small hatchback, we have to talk about the storage space. And frankly, there isn't a ton. But you are already aware of that. If you're going to purchase a vehicle like this, you're going to sacrifice cargo space. You're going to sacrifice space in general. But it's really not bad back here. You have room for, I'm sure, whatever you need to put back here. You're definitely not fitting a body back here, especially a larger one. So if any of you were planning to kill me, you're going to need something with a little bit more trunk space than this. Now, the trunk is about as wide and as long as a standard Econobox trunk is. I had plenty of room for all my camera gear back here, no complaints there. And you also have this factory installed cargo shade to hide whatever you have in the trunk, I guess. Now, a 6-speed automatic and a 2.5-liter non-turbocharged 4-cylinder engine, that sounds a little outdated now that some cars come with 87 turbochargers and a 12-speed transmission, all in the name of improving fuel economy. But do not be fooled. This setup works flawlessly. Because there's no turbos, that 186 horse and matching foot-pounds is delivered to all 4 wheels in a very linear manner. There's no waiting for turbos to spool, and there's no lack of fuel economy due to being a naturally aspirated engine. 24 mpg is achieved in the city and 32 mpg in the highway. Now, of course, your fuel economy will plummet as you try to beat the 3's posted 7-second 0 to 60 time, which is actually slower compared to its competitor, the front-wheel drive Honda Civic. Only by 0.02 seconds though, so there's that. But the eager gas pedal in the 3 actually feels a little bit sprightlier than the Civic does. But on the other hand, the Civic's interior is nowhere near as classy as this. And it's much easier to add power mods than it is to add premium interior touches to your car. Now, the 3 hatchback does have a governor that limits its top speed to 131 miles an hour. The quarter mile is over with in just over 16 seconds at 87 miles an hour, which is a little bit slower than the front-wheel drive variant. That could be due to the fact that the front-wheel drive weighs in at 3,000 pounds and the all-wheel drive variant is carrying around another 255 pounds. That's like having a whole me sitting in the trunk at all times. Well, actually, not that much. I'm not that big. And other than the Subaru Impreza, the Mazda 3 hatch is the only hatchback available with an all-wheel drive system. This is an all-new system from Mazda, and even at a price of $1,400, I welcome it with open arms because, well, if you're from New England like I am, or any place that it's gonna snow, you're gonna want it. But even when it's not snowing, the all-wheel drive allows you to boast all 186 horses in dry corners and inspires confidence in the wet. Now, it is a front-wheel drive biased all-wheel drive system, so keep that in mind. Now, speaking of handling, Mazda replaced the multi-link rear suspension with a less advanced torsion beam setup, which is rather odd. That stiffens the rear of the car by 78% over the last generation, which really isn't as noticeable as you'd think to me. I think this ride feels very solid and very smooth. And that was very important to Mazda when they were building this thing. They really wanted to graduate from the general econobox segment that they were in. Now, you can put the Mazda 3 in sport mode, and unlike other cars where it adjusts both the mapping of the throttle, the steering, and the transmission, all this does is adjust the shift points of the transmission. Makes the transmission hold its gear for longer. This is better if you're on winding roads and you're really trying to push the car hard. You don't want it to shift as much. But in this mode, it keeps you in a higher rev range, so you have more power, so you can curve the corners with more fun. Now, as for pricing, this 2020 Mazda 3 hatchback with the preferred package was around $26,500 with all the coronavirus deals going on. So that probably saved some money, and that's kind of why my buddy bought it now. Your less expensive base models around $25K, with the premium models reaching just about 30 grand. Now, overall, this is an awesome little hatchback. Sure, it may not be the fastest hot hatch on the market, but what it lacks in speed, it makes up for in absolute interior excellence. It's awesome, sharp, very unique styling, a luxurious, best-in-class interior, and of course, an all-wheel drive system. That really says something about this thing. And if you don't want the all-wheel drive system, you can still get this thing in a manual with all these premium interior features. It's fantastic. And now, all we need is the manual transmission to be available with the all-wheel drive. And now we're really talking, Mazda. Come on, let's do it. So I want to thank you all so very much for watching. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of the 2020 Mazda 3 hatchback. I personally think it looks much better than the Mazda 3 sedan by a mile. Be sure to check out my Instagram at DriveHub__ for updates before YouTube. Give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it. But that's it for me today. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Happy motoring.